Good morning, everyone, from me. My name is Konstantinos Georgiou. I'm a PhD researcher at the School of Informatics of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And today I will present you SKILLAB, creating a skill supply and demand space, data space, excuse me. So I will first talk about SKILLAB, a Horizon project that we coordinate currently, 3 years project, its objectives, goals, and pilot cases. And then I will present you for now, conceptual design of a SKILLAB data space that will provide skills analytics services and data exchange between stakeholders. So allow me to present you the situation in the labor market today. We all know, of course, that the labor market is evolving rapidly and that skills change in different time frames, particularly, for example, in the COVID pandemic, many skills and remote work became the forefront in the working landscape. And we see that new technologies are incorporated in the labor landscape every day. For example, large language models and ChatGPT are the norm in working landscapes today. And of course, all these new technologies that are being integrated require specific skills that are demanded by employers from employees. And all this makes us understand that skills do matter in the workplace and workers need to be quite skilled in several areas. And let me demonstrate and elaborate on something that requires a tremendous amount of skill to be accomplished. I think that, wait a second. Oh, I was supposed to have an IKEA logo here. I think we all know IKEA. And we have a running joke in our lab that it's easier to face your supervisor in a project progress meeting than assembling IKEA furniture. And to demonstrate that, I think that I believe I'm not the only one that has gotten in a position where I try to assemble an IKEA furniture. I find it very difficult and I give up and I'm depressed all day. And that does not mean that I'm stupid necessarily, but it just means that I didn't read the manual. And the manual was the way that I could acquire the skills to build the furniture. And if we parallelize that, people need a manual, a means to acquire skills, a platform maybe that could acquire insights from the European landscape and bring them to the modern workplace and inform European citizens about the skills that are required to be integrated in that workplace. And to define what are skills exactly, the separation is quite straightforward. We have soft skills, which refer to more personal skills that someone needs to have in the workplace, like communication, collaboration, creativity, and leadership. And we have hard skills, which are more technical skills that, for example, in my field, which is informatics, we have programming, statistics, machine learning, and data analytics. But I must stress that they are both equally important in the modern workplace. And we continuously observe the so-called skills gap, where the skills demand, the skills that are required from the job advertisements that are posted from employers, and the skill supply, which means that the skills that are provided by the workforce do not always align. We have companies asking for way too many skills from candidates, and we have candidates that graduate from universities and know only a portion of these skills, and they do not have the means to learn more skills. So we have a surplus of skills in the demand and a deficit of skills in the supply. And our project, SKILLAB, aims to combat the skills gap phenomenon. SKILLAB is a 3-year project, Horizon Euro project that started in January 2024. The Aristotle University coordinates the project, and we have 10 partners from 6 European countries. We have 5 research institutes, Aristotle University, the University of Macedonia, the Democritus University of Thrace, CERT, and Humboldt University of Berlin. We have our technology providers, Intra and Telefonica, and we have our lovely pilots, Eclipse Foundation, Clues IT, and Vilabs. I will present you the pilot cases later on. So this is also an overview of our consortium and our map of the countries. And moving on, the project aim is to deliver an open source skill demand and supply platform and prediction hub for 4 target groups: citizens, enterprises, academia, and policymakers. And to provide provide insights on that, we adopt a holistic approach, and we want to develop a skills management and skill shortage identification platform that will be able to monitor the European labor market at all times and propose strategies for curricular design, policy development, upskilling strategies in companies, and all that in specific regions, sectors, and timeframes. And the core objectives of SKILLAB is to identify skill shortages and gaps, to invest in the training and upskilling of developers and personnel in companies, to inform HR departments to recruit the best candidates for a specific job, to provide EU citizens and education institutions with learning pathways and learning strategies for proper curriculum design, and of course to enhance job retainability, ensure that someone can stay in a job longer and update his or her skills. And to do so, the SKILLAB technology is composed of 3 components, which can all be part of the data space that we have envisioned, where it's the SKILLAB tracker collects all the data from European Union sources. The SKILLAB modeler carries all the analysis, and the SKILLAB Intelligent Agent is a recommendation system that provides more targeted recommendations. So, to provide an overview of the architecture, the SKILLAB tracker is divided into 3 subcomponents, with the first component collecting data from the labor market, portraying the skills demand. The second component collects data directly from the European Union, from taxonomies, white papers, European projects, and European initiatives like CEDEFOP or the European Labour Authority, so that we have an overview of the European Union and several indicators. And the last component collects data from inside companies, like artifacts, interviews, evaluations, and anything we can find from inside the company and the skills that are related to a company. The SKILLAB modeler performs all the analysis, where we first process and transform the data, and then we analyze them in the skills analyzer to find gaps via machine learning and natural language processing. Then we have the skills forecaster, which serves as an observatory for different target groups, and we use explainable AI to predict current, future, and historical skill needs. And then we have the skills projector, which ensures European coverage on different dimensions, on 3 dimensions: temporal, regional, and sectoral, as I mentioned previously. And finally, the SKILLAB Intelligent Agent serves as a recommendation system for our target groups, companies, institutes, and policymakers, where the first component provides HR departments with recommendations for skill shortages, future gaps, and rare competencies that may be required from personnel. The educational profile upskiller provides training pathways for educational institutions for curriculum design and proper reskilling. And the digital transformation policymaker serves as a decision-making mechanism, allowing for better strategy planning and recommendations. And regarding our data sources, we gather data from multiple sources. For example, we have European project databases. We have, like Cordis, for example. We have job postings from LinkedIn, Monster, and any portal we could lay our hands on legally, of course. We have academic literature like Scopus and Google Scholar. We have user profiles and CVs, again, where we could take these legally due to GDPR. We have industrial literature from CEDEFOP and other organizations like Eclipse. And we also have European indicators from Eurostat to portray the European labor market in conjunction with other indicators. In regards to educational data, we collect courses from Coursera, Udemy, and Open Syllabus to portray the skill supply. And finally, we also collect EU policies from EU Lex and other European databases, as well as EU tenders. And to close the overview of SKILLAB and finally proceed to the data space part of the presentation, we have 3 pilot cases. We have the open source pilot case, where Eclipse is the pilot partner, where we want to organize the knowledge about the available and demanded skills from open source developers and understand open source communities and how they work and how they are structured. And we want to use SKILLAB to identify skill shortages and future trends in open source and be able to guide Eclipse properly in finding the best developer for each project. So we have the private sector pilot case with Clues, where we want to implement SKILLAB in the company, in the Clues IT cluster, and help them improve the recruitment process and design upskilling plans, programs, and workshops. They currently report that they have a problem in upskilling their personnel because they don't know which skills to invest on. And finally, we have the public authorities pilot case with Vilabs, where we focus on Greece and Cyprus, and we want to provide a decision-making mechanism for proper policy making in the skills anticipation problem, which skills will be important in the future. And ideally, SKILLAB could be transformed into a data space if we are currently investigating incorporating decentralized technologies and federated learning or open data sharing in the services. Of course, with emphasis on bridging the skill gaps and mismatches. And we follow the model of the International Data Space Association, defining several layers in the data space. I will present it later. And the development of such a data space could benefit the market if we encourage open data sharing whenever possible on skills development, the exchanging of data and knowledge among several stakeholders that will take part in the data space, and of course enhancing the upskilling opportunities across the European Union. And this is the overview of the data space. We have the three components with their separate functions, but we also organize them in layers. We have the business layer where we define the roles of the participants in the data space. We have four potential participants: citizens, educational institutions, industries, and policymakers. And all these can interact with each other, exchanging strategies and plans. In the functional layer, we find several key features of data spaces where we have trust, where we must design the SKILLAB data space with blockchain and proper and secure transactions between the participants. We have data sovereignty, where we will ensure that any data that is exchanged in the data space, the ownership is retained by the participant that exchanged the data. We want to create an ecosystem of data sharing and data exchange. And of course, we want to have standards for interoperability. We want to have a common language in the data space so that data can be shared in a common format. We also want to introduce value-adding applications where we will have skills analytics, skills forecasting inside the data space to help the participants perform analytics. And we also want to introduce data markets where data could be maybe purchased or exchanged for, I don't know. We advocate open source, but maybe we could introduce that in the data space, but we are thinking about that. And then we have the information layer where we should define the vocabulary units that define the data sources. We need to speak a common language and common formats in the data, and a common portrayal of the ontologies and relationships in the data space, and of course structure our backend services to be efficient. And the most important layer, in the process layer, we specify the interactions between data. We perform data analysis with the components I mentioned previously, and we have analytics platforms and microservices deployed with Docker and other software to perform analytics whenever a participant requires it. And finally, we have the system layer, which serves as a connecting tissue between participants. It contains brokers for data exchange and the services for interaction. It's a backend component, really. And to close my presentation, our pilots could benefit using the SKILLAB data space. For example, Eclipse could use the data space for a more structured analysis and data exchange between other participants, accelerating the identification of open source skills, which would be of great added value for foundations such as Eclipse and similar foundations. Clues could leverage the SKILLAB data space to safely access data and insights for emerging skills and derive recommendations from the components of the data space. Also, we are envisioning that the Clues IT cluster could establish internal data sharing inside the data space, exchanging data between different participants of this specific cluster. And of course, using the data space, Clues could find ideal candidates for jobs. And finally, ViLabs, as a public authority, could use the SKILLAB data space as a liaison between ViLabs and other policymakers, exchanging data between them, with full anonymity, of course. And they could use it to analyze data of agencies in Greece and Cyprus to extract insights, hence accelerating the decision-making process. Thank you very much. If you have any questions. Oh, yes.
Okay, and you said that you are crawling the web, so for example, open source repository and also Coursera videos, and in which metrics do you are extracting from this material?
From the online data?
For example.
Yeah, for example, when we crawl job advertisements, I will mention one source, we mainly extract the textual information, company names, if it's necessary, description of the job, title of the job, the timestamps, anything we can lay hands on a public job advertisement so that we can extract the skills and then pass the skills onto our database for further analysis and insights.
And on skills, which do you mean? For example, you have a project that is written in Java and you say Java is demanded.
Yeah.
Can you give this recommendation?
Yeah, actually, we use a structured... sorry, excuse me.
Is it correctly my rep? Or?
Yeah, actually, we use a structured taxonomy, the ESCO taxonomy for skills. So we know which skills we are looking for. Because we have a tree of skills that we map skills from a job into the tree. So we take the textual information, we pass it through some neural networks, and we extract ESCO skills. So, for example, if a project mentions Java, it will 100% be mapped to our skill tree, and then we will know that, for example, this project is linked with Java. And if, for example, this project is selected for analysis, Java will be a top skill in this specific project.
But what would be very interesting is when you could analyze the code and, for example, extract the code patterns that are used in, for example, and because in my opinion, when you are experienced in Java, this is now really not so valuable when you in hindsight to Gen AI and so on, and when you are skillful in patterns and so on, that will be more interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that, because we are doing it I forgot to mention it. Actually, the University of Macedonia sorry, allow me to go back to demonstrate you. In this component, the organizational skills tracker, the University of Macedonia analyzes artifacts, including code. And they extract, for example, in Java, they have a taxonomy of knowledge units, knowledge of creating an array, for example, or initiating a for loop. So we extract code patterns and skills from the code patterns. So we are kind of doing that, but we want to enhance it in this project.
Another question? Okay. I'm aware of a couple of skills projects. I was wondering if there's any synergies between projects.
Yes.
Are you focusing on specific type of skills because there are skills for cybersecurity, sustainability, and if not, is there any difference between them?
Great, thank you for the question. Actually, we are establishing synergies with projects from the same cluster. We have 5 sister projects that also deal with skills, and we try to organize some joint roundtables to discuss common methodologies. And regarding skills, due to our background, we mainly focus on digital skills, ICT and programming. And for example, this component here mainly focuses on code to extract digital skills, but we also want to expand on green skills, for skills for sustainability and associated with the environment, because they're widely mentioned in European policies. So that's where we'll shift our focus later on. But the SKILLAB platform will be able to produce insights for any type of skill. But in our research papers, we focus on these 2 types of skills.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.